Gentlemen. Good evening. We're about to start with our pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. All right. So, special meeting to hopefully go over the budget from what was presented, what I presented, and what the board changes. The only real changes to the budget from what I presented and what the board did was they changed some revenue from what I presented. They added a police officer. They added some police cars. And and we also increased the budget for paving for 2025. Those are basically the only changes to this budget. Overall, the budget, pretty much, when it came to the tax cap, we are still under the tax cap by over $200,000. And the percentage of change for how the budget is going to increase taxes from my budget to this budget went up a little less than 1%. So as you can see here, the tax changes on a tax bill, it's going to be minimal, basically the same that I had. If someone, when they get their tax bill, sees less than $100, maybe no more than $75, depending on how your house get assessed, that's going to be the increase on the tax. And pretty much everything that I went over in my budget presentation stayed the same, except for the things I just announced that the board changed on their behalf. I'll start with Councilman Coyne and see what he wants to add to it.
Yeah, I'll just throw out there that we did add, to the anticipated revenue for the hotel tax. And I think we probably could have gone a little bit higher, but don't want to find ourselves in a bind, stay conservative when it comes to that. We did put back, the supervisor had said, some money back into paving. There are a number of long roads in the 1st and 4th Ward when you get out of Scotchtown area that paving is required. So the asphalt definitely will be a lot more. We'll use a lot more asphalt in the next year than we did this year. And again, Eric and I'll let Eric talk about it, but wanted another police officer. But I think it's a conservative budget. Yeah, I think it's I have no issue voting yes on it. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilman Coyne. Councilman Valentin.
Yeah, so the budget as it was presented was a solid budget. As the supervisor had stated, we felt that the revenue that was anticipated was very conservative, and it was safe to increase that only for the purposes of adding these additional items that were mentioned. Our police, our town is growing in leaps and bounds. And with growth comes very positive traffic and positive things. And at times, unfortunately, with growth come some negative things. And so in order to address both ends and provide a continuous good quality of life for our residents, we need to support and staff the department. And so we added one police officer and still staying within the state cap, and also minimizing the amount of tax that it would burden the taxpayer. We were also able to find, with that additional revenue, monies to increase, as Councilman Coyne stated, additional monies to pave our roads, much needed roads that have been either missed, neglected, or just once we stop paving different areas in the town, these areas have been missed for various reasons, either light traffic or not as many homes, but it's time that we address those. Just to give you an idea as to what the effect on a tax bill would look like. We all know if you build a brand new home in the town, it's assessed at full market value. So those homes that are built new will always have a higher tax rate and base. So based on the effect of the town tax bill on a new home assessed at $72,000, that's assessed value. It would be, what is that? 72 cents on an older home per thousand. Thank you. On an older home, it's 50 cents per thousand. And then the condos are assessed differently. The newer condos that go up are assessed at $42.30 per thousand. And the older condos are already pre-existing would be at 25. So not a tremendous impact as far as the taxes. Everything goes up. Certain things within our budget we have no control over. Those are contractual obligations that we have with our employees throughout the town. So those are constants that we have no control over. And then the other thing we do not have control over is the cost of things that we need to buy to provide for the resources to do the job throughout the town. So with that in consideration, I think it's a solid, well-balanced budget, still providing ultimate services for our town residents and our town employees as well, and staying way below the tax cap. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Vanella.
And just one other thing, I'm sorry, and I'd like to thank our comptroller and her deputy, Lauren and Erica, for the work that they've done on this. Tremendous work with the time that you spent on it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just want the public to understand that my first time going through this, learning a lot. One of the things I did notice that the council here was diligent in trying to keep the tax bracket under 2%, which I believe they definitely did. I'm happy with the negotiations we had with increasing the police budget for the vehicles and for the officer. Very interesting learning curve you need to have to understand this job. So I'd like to again thank the council for showing me my way. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We did this together, just remember. This is all collective effort. Okay, Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Supervisor. As always, Ward 4 comes last, so most of the stuff has been said, but I just want to say that when you take a budget from previous year's budgets, it's not really that difficult because majority of the items have to stay in there. There are things we have to fund just to run the town, right? So salaries, all these things, expenses. So when you go through it, you're basically taking a previous one, looking at each thing and seeing what you can change. What I've found in, the 10 years that we've been doing this, that, our expected revenues do go up, right? And our costs go up. So we have to try and balance those. And we always take the budget that's presented and we go through it line by line by line and try and figure out, where there's any money that we can find, or maybe something is missed and we're going to have to, account for that. So this board does a great job, going through those for the last 10 years, like I said, that I've been involved in this. And I think, this budget, just like all the others, is very well done because it stays under the cap, under the 2% cap. It funds the town completely, makes some additions, additional paving. You heard Councilman Coyne mention that, his ward and the ward that I represent for have a lot of long roads. So the idea that when you start paving, the tonnage of blacktop you have to buy to do that road is significantly more than a road that would be like in Ward 1, or I mean, Ward 3 or Ward 2. So, you know, for example, I know the road that I live on hasn't been paved in over 25 years. It's not that it's falling apart terribly, but some roads are. You know, the shoulders obviously wear away. You always have frost wedging and heaving, so there's lots of potholes that need patching and stuff. We have culverts that are still the galvanized, corrugated galvanized pipe, which always, you know, rust out on the bottom. Those are the kind of things that should be replaced before you pave the road. And again, this extra money will allow for us to do that. And it wasn't really, you know, much of a change to the original proposed budget. We do look at revenues and try and keep them within spec based on the last 3 or 4 years. You look at what your income has been in a line, like say you're doing the building department, but then there's some things that always pop up, like a large project, like the stuff going on down the hill in the Golden Triangle. That's going to put a lot more money in the kitty than we normally get. So you have to take those and rule them out and try and figure out, okay, so this is actually what we normally would see, and this is what we will predict for the next year. You know, and we've always been pretty successful in being pretty close to that. And any good budget, anybody knows it runs a household. You always have to underestimate what you're going to get in revenue and overestimate your expenses. So at the end of the year, you have a little money left in your savings account to move forward. You know, you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So we've always been able to do that. And even though we're taking some money out of the fund balance for this budget, you know, we always return a little bit back at the end of the year, hopefully, and we should, and hopefully be able to do that with this one as well. There is some line items that are still outstanding that we're going to get on the hotel tax. So there is some things that will, you know, give us a little extra money next year than, you know, are actually labeled in here. So I think, you know, if I was to look at this as my household budget, I would be very proud to say that I think it's done very well. This board did a diligent job looking it over and making sure things are done. And our accounting department, to those 2 young ladies back there who do an amazing job, they should be up here presenting it, not us, because they did all the work. But I would just like to say that I'd be glad to vote, you know, yes for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Just to remind everyone, one of the considerations that's been taken into account, particularly this year, are certain recommendations that we received from the State Controller's Office in the planning and the execution of this budget. The town was mindful of positive recommendations that were made and observations made by the state, and taking those recommendations where they were appropriate and fitting it into the budget process, I think was an important item this year in particular. So I think that's just important to note for the record. Thank you.
Great point.
Yeah.
Will, thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Forgot about that.
Can I just add one more thing?
Absolutely.
I just want to point out this green sheet you guys have here. You know, where it says assessed value, you know, new house at $72,000. When they say assessed value, it means 1/5. So 20%, right? I don't think there's a home in town that's, you know, cost $72,000, but that's 1/5 of what the value is. So I just want to point that out. That's why those numbers are low. They look unrealistic, but they're not. They're, you know, you would multiply that by 5. So that's it.
George, can I just add to
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I think a lot of people, when they get their tax bill, it'll have the market value, current market value, and the assessed value, and there's a little confusion there. But the bottom line is, if you just take your assessed value, right, and multiply for every $1,000, whatever the rate was on that green sheet, which was like 72 cents, just multiply by that number, and that's, you know, the difference that you're talking about. So, you know, if you're assessed at $70,000, that and you have a 72-cent multiplier, it's $72 per 1,000. Right, that's it. 72 cents per 1,000, right? Yeah, 72 cents per 1,000.
Increase our taxes.
I know. Anyone else,
No, that's all.
No.
gentlemen? Okay. Just to add to what the council had spoken around the budget, this is my 3rd budget. Still learning about it, but you know what? I feel comfortable with this budget in regards to the services that are provided to the town residents, and I was conservative in my budget presentation. in regards to presenting it when I presented it. But I've had the opportunity to go to different meetings with the county in regards to sales tax, and had a meeting as recent as yesterday where sales tax was discussed, and it all appears and from all conversations that the sales tax revenue, it's not going down, it's going up. It should be good. Just to add, we have contractual collective bargaining. The town has most of the unions, and not all, but one, or under contract for the next 2 or 3 years. So we're contracted by that, which I think is a great thing. The main things that one of the concerns is the health benefits. It goes up. We don't have control over that. We get those numbers from the state. Same thing with the pensions. So those are the numbers that we have to put in there, regardless of what we want to put in. So overall, the budget is balanced under the tax cap. And again, if your tax is going up $75 to $100, that's a lot. And I think it's a great budget. And I would like to hear from the audience right now. People come up, state your name, please, if you want to speak on the budget. Okay. Anyone on Zoom? Okay. That being said, Madam, we're going to go to a vote. Madam Clerk? It's not a public hearing. Yeah.
Resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Walk Hill adopting the town budget for the fiscal year 2025. Whereas pursuant to Town Law, Section 108, the Town Board held a public hearing on the preliminary budget on October 24th, 2024 at 7:25 PM at Walk Hill Town Hall, 99 Tower Drive, Middletown, New York, and heard public comment with respect to the same. And whereas the Town Board of the Town of Walk Hill believes that the preliminary budget, as changed, altered, and revised, is in the best interests of the residents of the Town of Walk Hill and should be adopted. Now therefore is hereby resolved that pursuant to Town Law, Section 109, the preliminary budget, as changed, altered, and revised, is hereby adopted as the annual budget for the Town of Walk Hill for fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025, inclusive of the individual fund levies and allocations as annexed hereto, and that the same shall be entered into the minutes of the Town Board. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second,
Mr. Coyne,
yes.
Mr. Valentin,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Vanilla,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Serrano.
Yes. One last thing, thank you. I want to thank this board for doing their due diligence to go over this budget line by line, the way we did and the way it should be done. I also want to take a moment to thank Lauren and Erica, who have been thrown a lot at them, a lot of now I'm not going to say softballs, I'm going to say hardballs, and they've taken the challenge and done a tremendous job. And me personally want to say thank you. Ladies, you've been superstars. Thank you. And also I would like to thank my staff, Darlene, Mary Lou, I guess Larry too, for helping this through. It's not as simple as people think, but just to add, I am happy we as a board can work together collectively for the benefit of the Town of Walk Hill residents. And it's good. It feels good to be able to work together. With that, thank you for coming. If you want to come, we're going to be in our work session in my conference room. I make a motion to close the special meeting.